They told me, son, you're special. You were born to do great things. You know what? They were right.
Hello, and welcome to A Look Back At, which is the video series in which I, your host, Grayson Evans, show you games of this generation and why they are important, or also the mistakes that they have made that could have made them important. So for the first video, we are doing Bioshock. The game was released August 21st, 2007, with great scores. Right now it has a Metacritic score of 96, which is close to perfect. It won many awards, including 3 or 4 Game of the Year awards, a bunch of artistic awards, and all around is just a fantastic game. So let's look into why the game is important to this generation and why it was so well received. So the first point is the game had great atmosphere. Bioshock was a believable city. You could tell that it had problems in its past. You could see the gang warfare. You could see how the city just was deterred down because of the atom and the plasmids. It was clearly a distraught society. It killed itself pretty much. It was an amazing atmosphere. The water looked good. The music and the sounds were fantastic. The characters were believable. Even the splicers had their own little sense of humor to them. It was amazing. The gameplay was a pseudo RPG survival horror thing. Not really closer to the end of the game because the horror kind of died out. At the start of the game, there's a lot of jump scares and all that, just to make it creepy. And I think that had to do with the tie-in with System Shock. The game isn't a System Shock sequel or spin-off or anything. It's just in the name. So they tried to put a lot of horror in there, but it really isn't scary close to the end of the game. But it did have a lot of RPG aspects to it with the plasmid tonics and such. You could you could augment your abilities, so you could hack and stuff and get health from things, or do cool stuff like throw down an air trap or something. It made an interesting dynamic between the gameplay and the player creativity. And like I said before, the player could create their own play styles in the way they would equip their plasmids. Someone could run around and only like to shoot guns and only use plasmids to, open new areas and stuff, or someone could be like a plasmid only person kind of and only use their wrench most of the time. So they would shock people in water, walk up, hit them in the face with their wrench or something like that. A wrench jockeys, the game calls them. And I think that was really important because the game made it accessible to everyone, but it also let people be stylish with what they were doing. You can have conversations with your friends on how you take down big daddies, and almost none of them are the same story. Not everyone thinks of the same way to take down a big daddy. One of the most interesting aspects of the story was the way they portrayed objectivism, the Ayn Rand philosophy, especially with the little sisters. You can harvest or you can save them. So it's yourself, your own selfishness versus the world. And on the surface, it seems that if you are selfish towards yourself, you get a better payoff. But if you are nicer to the little sisters, you get a better ending and such. But really in the gameplay, in the mechanics, you get around the same amount of atom anyway, so it kind of falls flat, but you don't really know that unless you looked it up. So face value, it's quite an interesting dichotomy. If we look at the enemy AI though, it was quite simple. They would really just try to run and get health from the health machines or shoot you. They wouldn't do anything really that's too crazy. Their objective was just to kill you. I have had instances in the game where the AI bugged out and did something really cool, where I was scavenging, looking around, and I was opening crates, and I turned around and an enemy was standing behind me, not attacking me, just staring at me because the AI was broken. It just didn't work for whatever reason, and it was really creepy. It was just standing there looking at me, and I walked up and I looked at him and nothing was happening. So I hit him in the face with my wrench, and suddenly he started attacking me again. The AI just clicked on. It was a really creepy situation. So the AI is pretty good. It does break sometimes, but it does create situations that are really interesting, because you'll be just walking around and they'll be scavenging around for Adam. And as I said before, you can scavenge around. The game has direction. It has objectives. There's no side quests or anything, because it is quite a linear game, but you can still look around the ruins of Rapture and just look around and explore with where you want to go. Most places are still open to you after you leave them. There are places through story that are closed down, but it makes sense. As I mentioned before, the Big Daddies were super interesting because they were roaming boss fights, but they were also not necessary. You could opt into fighting the boss fight, so you could pretty much go through the whole game without having to fight a Big Daddy. I don't remember any instance in where a Big Daddy is necessary to fight. They're just there, and the payoff is really interesting if you actually take them down. But if we're talking about bosses, the end boss was awful. You go in, and I'm going to spoil it for you. Fontaine was Atlas, and you go in, and he's just this sort of, he kind of looks like Atlas from Atlas Shrugged on the cover of the book. He's just this big, huge guy just sucked up with Adam, and the whole fight is you just fighting him, and you don't actually kill him. So you go through all this effort, and you get knocked the shit out of you, and then Little Sisters attack him. I found that incredibly stupid, because you go through the whole game being not overpowered or anything, but you feel pretty powerful because you killed Big Daddy, so you're clearly important to Rapture. And the way the game ends is you're saved by Little Sisters. It seems to me a little weird, but after you beat the game, there was really no DLC release to speak of, really. The only thing they really added were plasmids and a survival difficulty on the PS3 version, but on the PC and Xbox, all you got to do is turn off Vita Chambers, which for an extra challenge is okay, but it really wasn't helping the story or anything, and that's really sad. The twist in the end was predictable. You could guess what was going to happen. I myself did not guess what happened because I wasn't focusing on the twist. Like, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to meet Atlas, what's going to happen then? I killed Andrew Ryan, so why does it matter? Like, Fontaine, they kept mentioning Fontaine maybe a little too much, so if they didn't mention him so many times, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have thought of it, which I didn't, but I know a lot of people who did guess that Fontaine was Atlas. So the game had a lot of criticisms in which there was no multiplayer and such, but it's still an important game to this generation and to all gaming because it's an artistic achievement. The gameplay is amazing, the atmosphere is amazing. Overall, it's an amazing game. There are a few shortcomings when it comes to AI, to the DLC. The end boss was stupid, and the twist was debatably predictable. But the game overall was amazing, and if developers in the future and the next generation want to find a game or want to make a game that's super atmospheric and brings emotion out and also makes people want to play their games over and over again, even though they're only single player, they definitely need to look into Bioshock. As of the making of this video, Bioshock Infinite won't have come out for almost a year now, so we'll see if they can recapture lightning in a bottle with that. But this has been the first video of Look Back. I'm Grayson Evans, and thank you for watching.